All right, so in the last video, we created the sign up page, but we have no way of logging in. Now we have a user here. As you can see inside of here, I have Zach at portexe.com, but I have no way of actually logging in. All I see is hello world from login. So let's go ahead and create our login page. So go ahead and open up your login.js file, and in the same directory, open up your styles.js file. Now I want you to go to the description and look for the code. And inside of the code, you're going to see the styles.js file. I want you to copy that and paste it inside of here and then save it. In the last video, I went over how this works, but I just want you to go ahead and copy this so that we're not worrying about CSS very much and we're focusing mostly on React here. So now that you have that, let's go ahead and get the imports in that we're going to need for this video. So again, just go ahead and go to the file in the description below and paste all of these imports in, and let's go ahead and start writing some actual code. So again, what we need to do, like we did in the sign up, is we're going to use with styles, and then we're going to pass in styles, and then we're going to immediately invoke the function that returns with login component, which is this component. I'll get rid of the div that we already had inside of there, and we're going to actually put in some real stuff. But above that, we want to go ahead and destructure, so we'll say const classes. Whoops, we're going to have to put the curly braces. Const classes is equal to this.props, and as a reminder, all that's doing is it's taking the classes property from this.props and it's setting it to a variable called classes. And so we will go ahead and create our main tag. So inside of here, instead of return, we'll create a main tag. And we'll set the class name equal to classes.main. And then inside of the main tag, we're going to do our baseline CSS. So go ahead and add in the baseline CSS tag. And then below that, we're going to add in our paper. So create your paper tag. And inside of the opening tag, go ahead and put in the class name. And that's going to be equal to classes.paper. And let's save this and see what this looks like so far. So now, just like we did with the sign up, we have the paper here, but we have nothing inside of it. So let's go ahead and add something. So we will create a typography tag. The typography component is going to be an h1 tag, and the variant, the variant will be equal to h5. And then inside of here, we're just going to want to say log in. And when we save this, you can now see login inside of the paper. So let's go ahead and create our form tag. And this is going to be very similar to the sign up page. So I just want to blow through this as fast as we can. So we are going to say class name is equal to, classes.form. And then we'll have a submit function just like we did in the previous component, which is going to be accessed by onSubmit. And that'll be a function that takes E, which is the event, and E will pass to our own function called submit. Well, that just happened, okay. This.submit login, and we will pass in our event to our own function here. So go ahead and go below our render function, go below the render function and create a function called submit login, which is a function that takes an event, and we're just gonna log console.log submitting. All right, so now that we actually have that function, we can move on. We'll create our first form control. So form control, and inside of the opening tag, we're going to make this required. So it's required, the full width, and we are going to want to give it a margin equal to normal. Cool, so inside of this form control tag, we're going to want to do a input label, which is going to have an HTML4, and we're going to use the ID for the input we're about to create, which is going to be login email input, and we should go ahead and put in the text, which is going to say enter your email. So let's go ahead and add the input underneath it with a capital I, and we will put autocomplete is equal to email. And then we are going to auto focus on it because we want it to be the first thing that they begin typing on, make it convenient for the user. And let's go ahead and add the ID, which is going to be equal to the HTML4 that we put above it. So login email input is the ID here. And we want to do an on change, which is going to be basically exactly like our sign up component. We're going to say onChange is equal to a function that's going to take the event, the change event, and pass it to our own function called this.userTyping. And that again is going to take the type of input we're typing on, which is an email in this case, and the event itself. So let's go ahead and above our submit login function, create our user typing function. Set that equal to a function that accepts a type and an event. And I guess for now we can just put a log statement inside of here that says type, and we'll log both the type and the event. And let's just go ahead and copy our form control. And this is going to be password, so login password input. So let's change all of those instances really quick. So autocomplete we don't really want for a password at all. So the ID, so let's remove the autofocus really quick. That was not supposed to happen. Okay, VS Code is being not my friend today. So the ID should match the HTML4, which is login password input. Let's go ahead and put that in there. And then instead of enter your email, it should say enter your password. And then instead of email inside of the onChange user typing function, we're going to say password. Then we also want to add one more thing inside of this input tag called type. And we want to set the type equal to password so that it does not show the password in plain text as they're typing it. And then we will go ahead and add our submit button below this, still inside of the form. That'll be a button with a capital B, and the type is going to be equal to submit so that it knows to submit the form when we click the button. Submit. And then we're going to make it full width so that it matches the inputs, and the variant will be equal to contained, and the color will be equal to primary, and we will do class name equal to classes.submit. And if I'm moving too fast, guys, you can just pause, and whenever you're caught up, you can just resume the video. So log in is going to be the text for this button. So let's just save that and see what this form looks like so far. Oh, this looks absolutely great. It really does match the sign up form that we have here. Now we need to add the section for whether or not the user doesn't have an account yet. So what I mean by that is we'll go below the form, we'll create a typography tag. The component for this will be equal to an H5, and the variant will be an H6. And we want to give it a class name, and that class name will be classes.noAccountHeader. And we want to put the text equal to don't have an account with a question mark. And below that, we'll go ahead and provide a link that allows them to click on it so that they can be directed to the sign up page in case they don't already have an account. So inside of there, we can just put sign up as the text. And we inside of the opening tag, we want to put a class name, and that will be classes.signuplink. And we will put a 2, and that's going to be /sign up, because when you click it, it'll bring you to /sign up. So when I save this, we can click sign up and it brings us to the sign up page, and we can click login and it brings us back to the login page. Now let's go ahead and create our initial state object here inside of a constructor. So create the constructor, and then we are going to go ahead and call the super, and underneath this we're going to create our state object. So this.state is equal to an object, and we want to have an email, which is null by default, a password, which is also null by default, and then we want to have a login error, which is going to just be an empty string by default. So now that we have that, we should probably go ahead and add the ability to display the server or the login error message. So underneath the form, puts an open and closing curly brace so that we can put some JavaScript in here. And let's put our ternary operator that says this.state.server, it's actually login error. If we have a login error, we want to go ahead and display a typography, and the typography is going to be component is equal to H5 and variant is equal to H6. So I'll copy it from this one down here, and we are going to want to give it a class name, and the class name is going to be equal to classes.errorText. So classes.errorText, and inside of here we're simply just going to put incorrect login information. Cool. It looks like I'm missing something. Ah, that's what it is. After the typography, we want to put a colon to finish our ternary operator and simply return null if we don't have a login error. So that when I save this, again, you can see that there's no error because login error is an empty string. But if I put some stuff in here and I save it, you can see that now we are displaying a login error because an empty string is falsy. And if it's got content, then it is not falsy and will return true. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and work on our user typing function. So down here in our user typing function, we'll go ahead and create a switch statement, just like the signup component. And we're gonna wanna switch on type. And this time we only have two types. We have email and we have the case for password. Okay, so if it's email, what we wanna do is we wanna set the state. And the chunk of state we want to update is simply email. And we want that to be equal to e.target.value. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. So I'll just literally copy this line over to password. But instead of email, we're going to change that to be password. And now we will be updating the state whenever we're typing. So let's actually log the state. So we'll say this this.state. Go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to open up my console here in the window and I'm going to start typing in some stuff and I'm going to click submit or log in and you can see, let's see here. Oh, I must not be calling the function properly. Let's see why that might be. Oh, we have to prevent the default. Sorry about that. So here we have to say e.prevent default. Just like we did in the previous video, we have to prevent the form from refreshing the page automatically. So let's go ahead and try that again. So I'll type in some stuff, click login, and now you can see the state is exactly as we'd expect. So let's go ahead and stop logging the state and do what we want to do in reality, which is go ahead and try to log in through Firebase with the credentials that the user has typed. So in order to use Firebase, we're going to have to come up here and type in const Firebase equals require Firebase so that we can use it in this component. And then we are going to go ahead and start making our Firebase call to authenticate. So simply all we will do is say Firebase, and then I'm going to go to the next line here and say .auth .sign in with email and password. That is the function that Firebase gives to us. The first argument is going to be the email, so this.state.email, and the second argument is the password, so this.state.password. And we are going to we're going to wait for a response by saying .then. Whenever we get a response, we're going to pass a function in here that's going to do some stuff. And if we get an error, so comma error, we're going to say this.setState. If we get an error, we want to set the state's error text to say, server error, which we're just going to simply be displaying incorrect login information here no matter what. So it doesn't really matter what we set this to necessarily as long as we're setting it. So underneath here, I want to go ahead and just simply console.log the error so that it's convenient to have the error logged so we can read exactly what went wrong. And then again, just like in the signup component, since we're using the router, it's going to pass a property in automatically called history. So we can access that by saying this.props.history.push, and we want to push to the dashboard when we successfully log in. So let's save that and see if we can log in. So the name of the user that I created was Zach@portexe.com, and I'll type in my password here and click login, and it successfully directed me to the dashboard here. So there was a mistake earlier. We called this error text, but up in the actual state object, we called it login error, and we're actually checking for login error. So we accidentally called this error text when we should be calling it login error. So let's correct that typo, save it, and now let's see if we get a login error when we type in the wrong password. So I'll just type in a bunch of random stuff for the password and click login. You can see here now we see incorrect login information. So then I'll go in here and type in the correct password, log in, and successfully I was able to log in and I was directed to the dashboard. All right, so now we have the sign up component and we have the login component. We're able to sign up or log in, and then we're directed to the dashboard whenever we're done with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.